Hello dear students, welcome to the third part of this series where we are discussing the tiger reserves of our country. We're familiarizing the tiger reserves and also diving deep into the ones that are important for Prelims 2025. Now we've moved on to Arunachal Pradesh, and in Arunachal Pradesh you have three tiger reserves, which is your Kamlang Tiger Reserve, Namdapha Tiger Reserve and the PART-3 Tiger Reserve. PART-3 is a previous UPSC question also. PART-3 is otherwise also pronounced as PYQ'S, and PYQ'S was the UPSC question. So you have Kamlang, Namdapha and PART-3. But the one that is important and the one that requires a much comprehensive factual analysis is your Namdapha Tiger Reserve. Namdapha is important because of several factors. Let's start from the smaller ones. First of all, this species that we are seeing over here, apart from the tigers, in Namdapha very recently they have rediscovered, or they've seen again, the four-ringed butterfly. You can see how they have these four different kinds of rings on its wings after almost 61 years. So the four-ringed butterfly has a sighting in Namdapha. Namdapha, if you look at the location of it, it can come as a question. Namdapha is located between the Mishmi Hills and the Patkai range. So if I'm putting it broadly, Mishmi and Patkai, especially when it comes to the Mishmi Hills, it's in the Dafla Bum range. The Dafla Bum range. Okay. So if I had to say, Namdapha Tiger Reserve is located between the Dafla Bum range and your Patkai range. Further on, Namdapha is also home to a very endemic in the sense that it is occurring only over there and it's quite rare. You have a species called as your Namdapha flying squirrel, and this is also located in your Namdapha Tiger Reserve. Namdapha, through the Namdapha Tiger Reserve, you have the river Noa Dihing that passes through it. Okay, and Noa Dihing is actually a tributary of Brahmaputra. But understand, it's not Brahmaputra that's passing, it's Noa Dihing that is passing through your Namdapha Tiger Reserve. Finally, Namdapha was in news a lot last year because it is also home to the very rare Hoolock gibbon. Hoolock gibbon is the only ape species that's found in India, and it was there in news for several reasons, which we'll discuss in our species session. But understand, Namdapha hosts it, and that is why Namdapha Tiger Reserve is important for us. Further on, let's go into Assam, and in Assam, you have tiger reserves Kaziranga, Manas, Nameri and Orang. You have four major tiger reserves, which is Kaziranga, Manas, Nameri and Orang. Now, out of these, the one, I would say we have to discuss two major tiger reserves out of this because these tiger reserves are so frequently repeated in news. So, we'll be discussing Kaziranga and Manas. Now, in Kaziranga Tiger Reserve, it was in news for, let's take all of the current affairs and collate it over here. First of all, there was the spotting of the golden tiger. This picture is shown over here of the golden tiger. And again, don't get confused between the golden tiger and the golden cat. That is a different species altogether. This is the golden tiger, otherwise also called as your tabby tiger or your strawberry tiger, because it's this, it's this shape of a small plump shape that is there. So it's otherwise called as a tabby tiger or the strawberry tiger, and they have spotted it in Kaziranga Tiger Reserve. Kaziranga was also in news because two very exquisite species have been seen over here. One is called as the Binturong. Binturong is otherwise also called as the bear cat. Okay, so even if you hear bear cat, understand, so they've found that in Kaziranga I would say few months ago. Okay, and this bear cat is a vulnerable species. So again, features into the UPSC consideration of important. Then one other species that was found over here was the small clawed otter. The small clawed otter would not have otherwise been so important if it was not the smallest otter species in the world. It's the smallest otter species in the world, and it was found in your Kaziranga Tiger Reserve. So these are the species importance that is there, the current affair ones. Apart from that, certain groups in Kaziranga, which are your missing, Ahom and Karbi tribe groups, they have been in news. So just to be familiar with it, missing, Ahom and Karbi are tribal groups, and their expertise primarily is in weaving and wood carving. And they have been in news, and they are primarily seen around your Kaziranga Tiger Reserve. If I had to put the location between of Kaziranga, that also is important. Why? Because Kaziranga actually lies between the Brahmaputra river and the Karbi, or the otherwise called as your Mikir Hills. Why is this location important? First of all, Brahmaputra is going around the park. Through the park, you have another tributary of Brahmaputra called as your Difflu river. So there's Brahmaputra around it, there's Difflu through it, and every monsoon season, both Brahmaputra and Difflu overflood. Thereby, Kaziranga has constantly been in news during that July, August, September period when there's monsoons, where because the Kaziranga Tiger Reserve completely floods. And this is one thing that is a current affair, and you need to know what is the relevance of it. So that is why I said it lies between the Brahmaputra river and the Mikir Hills, and through the Tiger Reserve you have Difflu river. Okay, and all of these rivers do flood, causing damage to Kaziranga. Further on, Kaziranga's general factual information is, as you know, Kaziranga is home to the very important one-horned rhino species. Kaziranga is also one of those very rare tiger reserves where you have the big five species. Big five is your elephant, tiger, bear, lion, all of these different major species that are there. Okay, and that is what Kaziranga's information is about. Further, we have to discuss about this pretty, Manas Tiger Reserve, where you have so many other important factual details related to it. For example, Manas happens to be the second largest tiger reserve in our country. At this point, I want you to take a guess and tell me which is the largest tiger reserve. Obviously, we'll be discussing that in probably in our next session or so, but I want you to maybe figure it out because it's a previous UPSC question also. So you can comment down which is the largest tiger reserve in our country. At this point, we are now discussing about Manas, which is the second largest tiger reserve in our country, and it is also home to a very endangered species called as your Bengal florican. It is also home to one of the smallest pig species, which is your pygmy hog. And pygmy hog is a critically endangered species. So that again puts it into importance. Beyond all this, Manas is actually a continuous area that is shared between both India and Bhutan. That means the forest area, part of it which is there in Bhutan is called as the Royal Manas Tiger Reserve and National Park, and in India it's called as your Manas National Park. You have Manas Tiger Reserve, everything. So it's a continuous area that happened to be distributed between India and Bhutan. Now, because this area cannot be protected, saying that okay, this part is India's, this part is Bhutan, India and Bhutan takes a very cooperative program to protect this entire area. And very recently, there's actually an award in global environment efforts called as your Conservation Excellence Award. Conservation Excellence Award is primarily awarded for transboundary initiatives. where the cooperation between countries actually yields in conservation activities. So, because this Manas Tiger Reserve has been protected from both sides, from both Indian side and from Bhutan side, very recently India and Bhutan received the Conservation Excellence Award. And that also puts our Manas in the forefront of important tiger reserves. Further, as we move on, we are now in Chhattisgarh, and in Chhattisgarh we have three major tiger reserves. You have the Achanakmar Tiger Reserve, the Indravati Tiger Reserve, and the Udanti Sitanti Tiger Reserve. Now, I have listed three of them, but the catch over here is we are not discussing any of these because these have not come recurrently in news. What has come recurrently in news is a 2B Tiger Reserve. They have declared, or as we speak right now, 2 days ago, they have declared. So it's not updated yet on the NVIS, on the ministry side. But I want you to understand, Guru Ghasidas Tamor Pingla Tiger Reserve, or GGTP Tiger Reserve, is now also declared in Chhattisgarh. So Chhattisgarh now has 4 tiger reserves: Achanakmar, Indravati, Utanti Sitanti, and your GGTP Tiger Reserve. And the GGTP is the one that we're going to discuss a bit, because obviously it's come in news so many times. Once fully notified, the GGTP will actually be the 3rd largest tiger reserve in our country. That is why we're discussing this. So as of now, you have several other tiger reserves having that position, but once fully declared and demarcated, your GGTP in Chhattisgarh will be the 3rd largest tiger reserve in our country. And the area that's covered by this GGTP involves your Chota Nagpur Plateau and parts of your Bhagelkhand Plateau. Those who've done geography, this is your opportunity to quickly take that map of yours and look where Chota Nagpur Plateau is and where Bhagelkhand is. Because in this area is where you're going to have your Guru Ghasidas Tamor Pingla Tiger Reserve. Next, we move into Rajasthan, and in Rajasthan, you have primarily 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 major tiger reserves, and out of the 5, one is a very recently declared one, which is your Dholpur Karauli Tiger Reserve. Which are the other ones? The Mukundra Hills Tiger Reserve, the Ramgarh Vishadhari Tiger Reserve, Ranthambore Tiger Reserve, and the Sariska Tiger Reserve. Out of all of these 5, the ones that we are considering important for Prelims 2025 is your Ranthambore and your Sariska. And I'll tell you why. So first, let's look into Ranthambore. Ranthambore is actually a tiger reserve that is located at the correct junction point of your Aravalli Hills and the Vindhya Hill ranges. Okay, so obviously that's a geographical side that can be asked as a question. Apart from that, Ranthambore has been in news because it has the presence of a specific kind of tree called as your dhak tree. The dhak, otherwise called as your Butea monosperma or called as your flame of the forest. I've put the picture over here. You can see why it's called as the flame of the forest. When these trees flower, it has these bright red, orangish color flowers out there. And when they are all bloomed together, it looks like, the forest is on fire, but in a good way. Okay, so Ranthambore has again been in news because of the presence of this dhak tree. Finally, Ranthambore is also in news because a certain global NGO that goes by the name Wild Track has launched a Wild Track project over here, which tries to have a real-time intelligence to reduce the poaching in this area. And that is also one reason why Ranthambore was in news. Further on, Sariska was in news. I know we are discussing about tigers, but Sariska was in news because it recorded the highest density of leopards in India. Okay. Now, I'll tell you a small bit of information. Tiger and leopards both are big cat predators. That means in an area where they are saying you have very large numbers of leopards, the probability is that the number of tigers will not be that much. It will be quite less. And again, Sariska was also in news because of that. Why? Because on one hand, it recorded the highest density of leopards. That means you are likely to see a leopard if you go to Sariska. But unfortunately, what you see is the tiger numbers have come down in Sariska. Okay, so Sariska is one tiger reserve which did not perform quite well in the last 4 years when it comes to tiger population. So keep that in mind. High density of leopards in the country, highest in fact, but the tiger population has come down. Sariska again is located in your Aravali hills. Sariska is also recorded, or it's considered important because of the presence of a fort inside Sariska Tiger Reserve called as your Kankarvadi Fort. This is one other reason why Sariska is important. Now, as we move further down south to Tamil Nadu, Tamil Nadu has so many tiger reserves. You have the Annamalai, Kalakkad, Mundanturai Tiger Reserve, Mudumalai Tiger Reserve, Satyamangalam Tiger Reserve, Sri Villiputtur Meghamalai Tiger Reserve. So, you have 5 major tiger reserves, but the ones that we are going to discuss in depth is Satyamangalam and Mudumalai. Satyamangalam and Mudumalai need to be discussed because of several important current affairs. So, let's have a quick look at Satyamangalam first. Satyamangalam has been a nightmarish sort of a thing for a lot of people because this was home to the, very notorious forest bandit Veerappan. But now Satyamangalam has been in news for all good reasons. Why? Because Satyamangalam is a tiger reserve in our country which was awarded the TX2 award. TX2 is an international award that is given to tiger range countries wherein they have managed to double the population of tigers. Okay, and Satyamangalam is one such tiger reserve that has got this award because they have managed to do such good work when it comes to doubling the tiger population. So, good job over there. Now, what are the other factors that have featured Satyamangalam into this important list? So, you will see Satyamangalam is actually a tiger reserve that is again located at that perfect juncture between your Western Ghats and Eastern Ghats. This is a previous UPSC question also. Okay. And Satyamangalam is also in news currently because as part of the Nilgiri Thar, that is another kind of a species, as part of the Nilgiri Thar species conservation in Tamil Nadu, the Tamil Nadu government is reintroducing the Nilgiri Thar to several areas. As part of that, in Satyamangalam Tiger Reserve, they have introduced or reintroduced the Nilgiri Thars. Okay. Further on, Satyamangalam was also in news because of 2 particular communities that are existing over there called as your Irulas and Soligas. The Soliga community was part of a legal battle that was involved. Anyway, understand Irulas and Soligas are located at Satyamangalam. Finally, the last point that I have left to discuss over here, Satyamangalam Tiger Reserve is also an area where you have an important festival called as your Sandanakudu Festival. Sandanakudu Festival. Now again, from the word itself, Sandana again means your sandalwood, which is there. Sandanakudu Festival is primarily a pilgrimage conducted to the Gazalati Dargah. The Dargah is also located in the premises of your Satyamangalam Tiger Reserve. Gazalati Dargah is actually located on the land given, it was given by Tipu Sultan. And the idea was to create a shrine for Sufi saints. So, they did create a shrine over here called as your Gazalati Dargah. And to this Gazalati Dargah, there are processions and there are pilgrimages that happen. And that is called as your Sandanakudu Festival. Okay. And that is again the reason. In September is when this festival occurs, and again that was there in news. So I hope you understand this is all related to your Satyamangalam Tiger Reserve. Further on, I told you there was one more tiger reserve in Tamil Nadu that is important for us, which is your Mudumalai Tiger Reserve. I would say, though there are only 2 pointers over here, the 2 pointers are something that are very, it can be twisted into a question. So I'll tell you the first point. Mudumalai has seen a rampant growth of an invasive alien species called as your Senna spectabilis. Senna spectabilis. Senna spectabilis is this tree with yellow flowering plants. So we'll discuss in detail in our species list. But understand the Senna spectabilis has occupied large areas of Mudumalai, and very recently they had to have a complete de-weeding campaign over there. They were, they're cutting down this area so that to preserve this area in a good manner. So Senna spectabilis is the invasive alien species that is occurring in Mudumalai, and that is why it's important. On the other hand, Mudumalai also has a very good growth of an important species that is very necessary for its ecosystem called as your elephant grass. I've seen a lot of times students getting confused between these two terms. The elephant grass is actually the useful species over there, and rampant populations of it actually improves the ecosystem. On the other hand, Senna spectabilis is the one that is not so useful, and it's an invasive alien species. Okay, so I hope the tiger reserves in Tamil Nadu are now clear to you. The final state that we're going to discuss in the third part of our series of tiger reserves is in Uttar Pradesh. In Uttar Pradesh, you have 4 major areas: your Dudhwa Tiger Reserve, Pilibhit Tiger Reserve, and your Ranipur Tiger Reserve. Now, I would say out of all of this, there is not much prominent, none of these tiger reserves have featured so much in current affairs. Just the fact that Ranipur and Amangarh, which has been located over here, both in Ranipur and Amangarh, I would say Ranipur is a very recent tiger reserve, and in the recent census, Ranipur recorded 0 number of tigers. That means this is an area that is now being groomed to become, to reintroduce tigers into the area. They are now planning to do it. So that is why Ranipur has right now just recorded 0, but in the coming years, maybe we would see tiger reintroduction happening over there. These are the 4 ones that are right now there on the Environment Ministry side. Uttar Pradesh has also given the proposal to have the Suhelwa Tiger Reserve. So again, Suhelwa was also in news because of this reason. But Suhelwa is not yet notified into the actual list. Okay, so with that we come to an end to the third part in our 4-part series of our tiger reserves. Now you have to wait for the final part where we discuss the whatever is left, the states which have just 2 tiger reserves or maybe 1 tiger reserve, the ones that are quick and easy to get into your mind. So stay tuned for that and come back for the 4th part of the session.